Alright, everybody, for today's Industry Insight, we're going to be discussing the failure of Valve's Steam Machine and kind of what could have happened that caused what sounded like a great idea to flop so badly. If you missed the news, as of last week, Valve has been attempting to quietly remove any mentions and listings for their interesting device off of Steam. But it's looking more and more like this device is going to go down as one of the few rare flops from the company, alongside the ability to sell mods for Skyrim. But it's a very interesting idea about why this failed in the consumer market, and it kind of has to do with how things have changed and just what people are expecting today when it comes to the game industry. So, for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, the Steam Machine was essentially Valve's idea to bring console gamers to the PC side. The concept was you would buy this device, and the price would vary based on what you want out of it, and the box itself could be hooked up to TVs or computer monitors, and it was essentially a console that only plays PC games, specifically only plays games off of Steam. Valve even released its own Steam overlay for the device, which can also play in quote-unquote big picture mode on the computer. But the specifications for it were very similar to different common built PCs, as in you had different prices aimed at different markets. According to Google, they were varied in range from $500 all the way up to $1,400, with different models made by different companies. So the idea was the low-end model would be kind of like a low to mid-tier PC, while the high-tier model was your quote-unquote top-of-the-line PC for the time. And when this was announced a few years ago and then released in 2015, it sounded like this was going to be a great idea. Console gamers don't want spending lots of money and dealing with all kinds of PC issues, so just buy this little box and go with it. But it turns out things did not work. And that's what is very fascinating to look at how the market has changed. I would say, looking at what they're offering and what came out, I think the biggest thing that killed the Steam Machine was just who exactly was this aimed for. Now, the easy answer that would be console gamers. But you have to understand that console to PC and vice versa has changed dramatically over this decade. 15 plus years ago, it was very rare to see cross-platform support or cross-platform porting outside of the mega games. You know, Call of Duty, Battlefield, and even Halo got a PC port way after its original release. But the idea was, about a decade or so ago, these two platforms were separate from each other. And it kind of was looked at that was going to be the way forward. But the last decade brought along a very important change in terms of standardization, in terms of design philosophies, gamepad layouts, and just being able to get these games onto multiple platforms easily. And in today's market, things have certainly changed. Last year being a really big push, with many console games getting day one releases for the PC as well, especially out of Japan, with games like Nier Automata, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, and even later titles like Neo, I'm sure there's a few other I'm forgetting, that eventually got ported to the platform. And when Japan is interested in the PC, you know something big is going on. But what this ultimately means is that it's getting easier for everybody to play video games, outside of course, the platform exclusive titles, your Mario's, God of War, Halo, and the like. But this is ultimately a good thing for consumers, not a good thing for a dedicated dedicated Steam only box. And that's the other big point. While Valve was attempting to remove a lot of the headaches and frustrations of owning a PC, it also removed a lot of the utility. And that's a very big point. As we all know, our computers or laptops or whatever aren't just for playing video games. We use it for work, communications, doing all kinds of projects and the like. It's not just meant to play games as opposed to a console. And again, when you look at the price of the Steam Machine, they were going for $500 to $1,400 at launch. For that amount of money, you could very well buy your own low-end PC or even get a console. And even consoles these days, outside of the Switch, has browser functionality, connecting to people, streaming, and the like. Now, another big point is what we all probably have at this point, a smartphone. The smartphone has been a revolution in terms of bringing this kind of functionality to everybody. And I know there are a lot of people out there who just use a smartphone and they don't even need a computer. Because again, the utility is there. This isn't just a phone to call people. I can play games on it. I can once again do work, GPS, figure out tips, and probably several dozen more app functionalities that I'm not mentioning. But the point, of course, still stands. Utility is there. When we look at the Steam Machine, again, who is this really aimed for? Because in today's market, console gamers are now getting access to PC games and vice versa. And of course, we've talked about the big push courting indies to the respective consoles. And even, of course, the Nintendo Switch with their Nindies program. But again, the name for, or I guess the motto for today's Industry Insight is that consumers want utility. They don't want to just buy something for one specific purpose. And of course, we could easily segue in discussing what this means for VR and AR down the line, but that would probably be a topic for another video. But there was definitely hype around this idea of the Steam Machine. And again, when you think about it, it should have done better. You have a device that, again, PCs and computers can be very annoying to deal with. You get a problem, and if you're not versed with hardware or software support, you're kind of up you-know-what's creek unless you have a friend who can help you or you're willing to spend money. The beauty of consoles is that I put a device in or I put a game in, it works. I don't have to worry about hardware or software troubleshooting. And trying to remove all those pain barriers and get people into PC gaming sounded like a great idea. But without that utility and being able to do other things with it, it's essentially you're just buying a cut-at-the-knees PC at the price that you could probably afford a respectable PC as well. The other problem, and this is a big one, is that while Valve was trying to remove the guesswork or the mystery behind hardwares for PC, it kind of created its own problem. Because each Steam Machine was built out of different hardware or built to be a different kind of PC. Again, the low-end model at $500 was your casual or family-friendly PC. The $1,500, $1,400 one was your top of the line. But again, the issue stands. If I'm going to spend over $1,000 on a computer, why should I spend on one that's only going to let me play games and nothing else? I think what they should have done would have been to kind of eat the costs, as we've seen console manufacturers have done, just to get a market and get some recognition out there. We've seen this before with Microsoft, when I believe famously with the original Xbox, they sold it, I think, either at cost or under cost of manufacture, just so they could build market share. But with the Steam Machine, again, it raises that point. PC gamers are going to get their own PC. Let's face it, anyone who is a hardcore PC gamer is either going to buy a high-end PC or they're going to make one themselves. And they're going to do it with the parts that they want, not that some other company dictates. Console side, they want to be able to play a wide variety of games, and they also want the cost value. Again, the cheapest Steam Machine was more expensive than the consoles at the time, and even to this day. And you don't want to try and beat consoles like that. And for those of you watching this, my question for you is, for anyone who's tuning in, did you look at or even purchase a Steam Machine? What made you decide to do it if you did? And what did you think of the device as a standalone, again, PC or a gaming PC without the actual PC side of things? Let me know in the comments below. But this does raise one final question I want to touch on before we wrap it up for today. Could something like this work? As we've seen before, getting more people to play your game is ultimately going to be a net positive for everyone in the industry. It's why independent developers have been being motivated to go to consoles, go to the Switch. It's why console developers like Square Enix, Tecmo Koei, and the like have said, hey, there's a huge audience for our games on the PC. Why don't we get that port working? I mean, we saw this. It was still such a shocker to see the Dark Souls series be released on PC, let alone games like Neo. And we're even seeing some older titles like Nice America coming to the PC, with a recent announcement I heard that Dissecting 5 will be on the PC soon. So the point definitely stands that there is a market for console gamers to experience PC and vice versa. The question, though, is what device is going to be the best way for them to do it? And ultimately, I think we're going to see more of this cross-platform support, be it from just courting developers or making it easier. Now, the hardware side, when it comes to game development and consoles, that is in of itself its own major topic, and definitely beyond the scope of my knowledge base to discuss. But talking about things from just how far you can go with it is a big point about this. We've said this before, but there's only so far you can really push hardware before we're just getting into, the rivet counting of, this computer, this console may be 2% faster than one before it. And at some point, we're going to reach that stage, and we may have already seen that with the Xbox One and PS4 Pro, where consoles aren't going to be made brand new, but going to be upgraded or iterated on. And when that time comes, it's going to be very interesting to see how console manufacturers and PC or hardware makers react to the kind of decline of that ever greater push for hardware. Because there's only so far you can push things before we get into, the science fiction realm of processors so fast they can, warp time, or 300 gigabytes of memory, or crazy stuff like that. But getting any further than this will take us way off topic. So to wrap things up, the Steam Machine had a good idea, but the market was just not there for a device that only allowed people essentially half the reason to own a PC, and without any other additional functionality. One last thing I didn't mention that is also a big point. These Steam machines are hard locked or hardware locked, meaning it's not like I buy a Steam machine and then I can open it up and do my own thing with it. So if I buy the $1,400 model, and let's say a year later they release a new upgraded version of that, it's not like I can just take mine and upgrade it for a new one like I do with smartphones. I gotta spend that money again. And once again, for PC gamers, if they're going to spend money, they're going to build their own thing. But thank you so much for watching today's Industry Insight. Be sure to check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until our next talk, have a great night. Before we get to the credits, just want to give a quick shout out to the fans and supporters over on patreon.com/gwbicer. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. If you'd like to suggest games for me to cover or topics to talk about, let me know in the comments below. For a collection of my writings as well as weekly podcasts on design, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the Game Wisdom Patreon, you can find us on there on patreon.com/gwbicer. $1 will get you into our private Discord channel where we talk game topics and more. $5 will get you voting privileges for any major event, including the Saturday Night Grab Bag, Patreon-funded goals, and more. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoy more videos here on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel.